Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today we are going to be taking a look at Legends Untold, and this is a preview of the new expansion slash standalone campaign that is coming out. We'll be hitting Kickstarter sometime soon, and that is called The Illumination of Deepsorrow. And this is a standalone campaign and expansion to the original novice sets that came out. There were two sets. There were the Great Sewers and the Weeping Caves that came out. I have taken a look at those on the channel. This is a game that I really like, and I am super excited for this expansion. This expansion is also going to be expanded by the Potions and Preparations expansion set, which we will also take a look at. But this is a really neat product in that it works as a standalone campaign. You can play the game with just this box. All of the materials, or a lot of the materials in this box, also expand the original novice set, so you can use a lot of the cards and stuff found in here to play your old games. You can also use all of your old cards and materials from the first two novice sets to expand this expansion. So it's a really smart expansion, and I'm really excited for the things that it's bringing. So this says, where the sky screams and black clouds roar, where sand climbs high and eagles soar, secrets will travel by sail and oar to Deepsorrow on distant shore. The violent wind whips sand across your face. Overhead, the constant lightning of the wrath storm earths into the enormous coral-like spires that tower above you. You are sworn to your quest. You must navigate the mysteries of Deepsorrow and find the ancient Illuminolith, so that you may shine a beacon of light and illuminate the approaching darkness. The Illumination of Deepsorrow is a standalone story campaign for Legends Untold that follows a new party of adventurers into the ancient buried seep of Deepsorrow. You will get new heroes, there's a new story, new dangers, new loot. You can combine your sets and have an upgraded experience. Legends Untold is a pretty complex game. I would say that the rules for this new set are kind of revised. I would call it a revised rule set. It doesn't necessarily streamline or dumb anything down in terms of the rules, but what they have done is they have provided a lot of really quality documentation to make the game easier to learn and easier to play. So let's take a look at some of that documentation. First of all, you're going to get this how to play guide, and this how to play guide actually comes with a subset of cards from the original novice sets. So you will get two characters, the performer and the forge hand, in order to play through this short tutorial with. You will get a number of locations to explore. And then each of those characters comes with their weapon and their talents, their main talents and their defensive talents. Comes with their main weapon. And then you will get a variety of different types of cards, events, obstacles, and monsters in order to play through this tutorial scenario. And this tutorial scenario does a really good job of teaching you how to play the game. It walks you through the hero setup. So it tells you how to set up your different decks, how you're going to play the game. And then it walks you through 2 or 3 complete turns, so you get a really solid idea of how to play. Because the game is not easy. It is a fairly complex game. You also get a really cool content almanac. And this shows you in great detail everything that you get in the game and how it is used. So it goes through all the various books that you're going to get, your new readiness tracker and how that is used. It walks you through your different occupations, what your skill cards, what everything means on your cards, on your talents, on your weapons, your additional tokens that you might need to use. And then it goes through a very detailed explanation of everything that is on your location cards. It goes through what your location tokens are, your various obstacles, barriers, and adventure cards, loot cards, and it goes through a step-by-step example of combat and how to read your various foe cards. This is super valuable, and I wish more games came with something like this. Finally, those of you who played the old sets, the first novice sets, you might remember the flowcharts that were made for player aid. And now we get professional printed ones in a nice book. And this goes through each step of the rules of each phase in the game. There are 4 phases. You have a scouting phase, an adventure phase, and an exploration phase, and a rest phase. And you're going to get flowcharts for each one of those phases, with also a very detailed flowchart on how to handle tests and combat. So the flowcharts make it look probably more intimidating and complex than it is, because the flowcharts are relatively simple to follow. But this is a really good guide to walk you through, once you've read the book, to play your first game or two, just following the flowcharts depending on which phase you are in, because it walks you through exactly what you need to do in each one of those phases. And Legends Untold is a game that if you play out of sequence, it can really mess things up and start to kind of fall apart. Kind of like Arkham Horror 2nd Edition. You really need to follow the steps of when things are done, when things are resolved, and what happens when those things are resolved. So following these flowcharts makes everything make a lot more sense. And then you will also get your basic rulebook. And the rulebook is quite well written. Everything is pretty well organized. It walks you through all the steps. It's a good size. It's a little like kind of a large magazine size, but the text is nice and big, which I do appreciate that as my eyes get older. I really had no complaints with the rulebook. It also has a glossary at the end. It doesn't have an index. I would like it to have an index. And it also has a nice turn sequence and combat sequence chart on the back. And finally, the last piece of book documentation you're going to get is your campaign guide. So this is a campaign expansion. This is adding a big kind of like epic story to the game. And what they've decided to do is kind of dig deeper into the setting, the 2 settings of the novice game, the sewers and the caverns, and add this deep sorrow, this underground city that you are trying to explore. And in this campaign, you will be reading. You have a little backstory at the beginning. It's pretty well. It's pretty well written. I don't really have many complaints. For instance, with the help of the initiate, the librarians completed a translation previously unknown to them and revealed the prophecy of the departing poets, which was written in the magical language of Atheru and left only clues as to its exact meaning. The librarians interpreted the prophecy as a warning that once again something terrible was returning to the world, and that 2 lost relics must be reunited to prevent this. And then that kind of gives you like the large backstory of what's going on when your party of characters arrives. And then the story begins here. This gives you the story begins. This gives you more of a background about who your characters are. And the new characters are the Earth Guide and the Envoy, as well as the Initiate and the Sky Gazer. In my game right now, I was playing as the Earth Guide and the Envoy. Gotta play that Envoy. He looks awesome. He looks like Judge D or something. Or Detective D, I should say. Judge Dredd, Detective D. 2 different characters, but similar names. So you're introduced to your characters here and their backstory and how they are working together. And then you get into how to set up your campaign. So all of the rules that are specific to your campaign, it tells you how you're going to be combining sets if you want to combine the stuff that you already have. Really easy to do, really easy to keep things organized, because all of the cards in the game do have a number at the bottom, an identifying number that tells you what set they are from, the number of the card, and how to organize those if you need to reseparate everything. So I do not have anything mixed together because this was a preview copy and I have to send this on to, I believe I'm sending this on to Logan Chops next. I think that's what I was told. But I don't want to combine my stuff and then have to like take everything out because in case I mess up and keep thinking and keep something in that shouldn't be in, or take something out that shouldn't be taken out. But I did a little roadmap of the campaign, and there are 12 scenarios in this campaign, and a successful time through the campaign will see you completing 8 different scenarios. So scenario 1, you can split off to 2 or 3. 2 or 3, you can choose 4 or 5, and then you go into 6 and then 7. From 7, you go into 8 or 9. From 9, you go in, or from either of those, you go into 10. And then depending on how many clues you've found, you have 2 scenarios for the finale, either 11 or 12. So that's 8 total scenarios through a campaign. It has a clue system, and you're going to be discovering clues as you play. And when you discover certain clues, we have History of Deepsorrow, we have the people and creatures, and ancient artifacts. And these are different story tracks. And as you gather different story points, you're going to be moving up these tracks, and then you will be reading clues. And then there will also be times that during the adventure, you will seed clue cards into the adventure deck. And as you discover those clues also, you will be reading from all of these various clues. And they've decided to give a lot of backstory to the world. So you're discovering things about the world. You're discovering things about the history, the lore. It's a very lore-heavy campaign. The amount of story you're reading at the beginning or end of each scenario is pretty short. A couple paragraphs to start the campaign, and then a paragraph whether or not you succeed or fail. And it does have a fail forward mechanism to where you are going to be kind of constantly moving forward. But if you do poorly, it probably gets a little less fun because more bad things happen to you. And then each of these scenarios also has a bookmark on the side that tells you how you're going to set up everything. So all of the documentation is really well done, but you also get some other documentation that makes playing the game much easier. One of those things is this new readiness card. And this helps you keep track of things like the light source. As the environments get lighter or darker, you start to get bonuses or penalties to certain roles. Like for instance, if you're moving into a more lit location, then it's easier to spot traps and avoid them. However, it's also easier for monsters to spot you. You can set the pace of your adventure, and this kind of helps with the timing mechanism. The default pace is a march, and a march basically is going to cost you 1 unit of time each new location. You can also go into sneaking mode, which is going to cost you 2 units of time. Or you can go on a rush mode, which it will completely eliminate the need to spend time, but you will have penalties on your scouting and surprise tests. And then depending on how you scout the location, you will set your condition. You will be either bold, where you will have no modifiers or penalties. Sometimes if you're really good at scouting, you will be extra alert. And if you're extra alert, you can spend time to retreat from traps. Or if you're not very good at scouting, you might be careless. And then if you're careless, booby traps automatically trigger. And then you can also keep track of whether or not you are surprised by the enemy, if you're not surprised by the enemy, or if the foes are surprised, or if you are surprised. So this is a really handy thing that just helps keeping track of all of these different conditions during the exploration parts of the game really handy. A couple other nice pieces of documentation are these combat results and condition effects cards here, as well as the list of icons and a cheat sheet on how to handle the different basic tests in the game. The final piece of documentation that is really handy, and I really like this, is the combat track here. If you are facing against a melee foe, you will use this side. If you're facing against a ranged foe, you will use this side. And then this tells you how you set things up. So if your heroes are ranged, they will go back here in the ranged position. If they're melee, they will go here, and then your basic enemies will go there. If it's one-on-one, then you will use this square here. If the enemies outnumber the heroes, you will replace that. If the heroes outnumber the enemies, you will replace that as a reminder for certain bonuses. Then it also gives you kind of a step-by-step guide to some of the things you need to check in combat. And then the same thing for here. If the foes are ranged, you might have some ranged foes here, maybe some melee foes there, melee hero and a ranged hero, and so on. So this is really handy, a really nice way to keep track of your range of melee and the steps of combat. So Legends Untold, I'll go over a very quick kind of summary of the game. And if you want a more detailed summary of the game, you can look at my old video. But basically, each scenario is going to have you put together a deck of location cards. And these location cards are going to come out, and they're going to tell you a certain what kinds of things you can discover on the card. They're going to tell you the tests that you have to take depending on the lighting for your scouting. You will have various places where you can search. And then you have all of these red icons are basically cards that you will draw depending on the icon. And you're going to, depending on the scenario, you will set up an adventure deck, you will set up an obstacles deck, and a barriers deck. And all of these are basically different kinds of challenges, different kinds of random events that you will discover while you are on your quest. And then as you completely explore each of the locations, you will move through the exits to other locations, and you will line those up. You will take the footprint, that's the entrance space on each location, and you will line that up like that, and you will move along a maze that is created. Most of the maps have, 6 or so locations, so they're not huge, but there are a lot of things to do on each of these locations. So the beginning of the scenario takes place in the Great Sewers, so you can combine your Great Sewers stuff with the first half of the campaign. And then later on in the campaign, you will move into the Weeping Caves, and then you can combine all of your Weeping Caves stuff. And then once again, these cards can also be used to expand their sets that you already have. Then finally, we get these new locations, and these are special locations for the new campaign. And as you can see, you kind of move into more fantastical underground locations, which are super cool. I absolutely love the art in this game. It's one thing that has just remained totally consistent and just really incredible. The art on all of the different adventure cards. So you have these discoveries, and these can be kind of good or bad, and you will have to take certain tests. Most tests in the game are done by rolling 3d6, adding up the numbers, and then adding up any bonuses from your character's stats or their skills in order to hit certain numbers. You have different foes, and the foes will tell you how many foes come out depending on how many characters are in your party. It is totally possible to play this game as a lone wolf. There's some enemies here. There's some loot, an automathrall, a memory of Bagdradas, a corpse bee, some cultists, sacred ground, an old frying pan. So here's a clue that you might find. So in the scenario, if you find the first green clue, then you're going to read a certain passage at the end of the campaign book there. A glass gas vial. So there are booby traps and all kinds of different traps and stuff. Yeah, all kinds of really cool. I love the random encounters in this game. They're super fun. These are obstacles. So these are often things that are going to block your path as you move from one location into the next. And then barriers block your entrance into certain locations on each of the locations. And usually you have to pass through these barriers in order to find loot and in order to find safe places to camp. But usually what you're going to be doing is you are going to be working your way through the stack of locations, trying to find a certain location and then getting to that location and doing a certain test in order to pass the game. And you want to keep all of your heroes conscious and alive before doing so. You also have a deck, a timer deck, and each time you work through the deck, each time you move into a new location, you discard a time card, And then once the last one exists, you flip it over and then you have an encounter. So this is a random event that you have to do. And then once you have solved this random event, you discard that. And then now you're down to 5 time. Again, you go through that. The last one, you flip over, you have that event, you discard it, and then you have 4 time. So you keep doing that. Each of the scenarios will have a certain number of time cards. The time cards, the time element, the timer element seems to be a little... It seems to be a little more lenient. I typically ignored it while playing Untold Legend. If I ran out of time, I just kind of kept playing normally and just maybe pretended that I didn't do the mission well. I hardly ever said I lost because I ran out of time. That's just me. I don't really like timers, but what I do like is I love that the timer cards are also random event cards. So again, it adds an element of randomness to your quests. A basic overview of the characters. The characters are really cool in this game. They seem very complex. They are almost like complex RPG characters because you get a number of different stats, and these stats are going to be added to your challenges, to your tests, to your roles. An innate, a basic weapon. All of the characters are armed with a knife, and then each character will come with a starting weapon. So the Earth Guide comes with the battered axe, which is a 2-handed weapon, and the stats for the weapon are on the side here. And basically what you do is when you are in melee combat, you roll dice. You roll 3 dice, you add them together, and you look up the number here, and that roll satisfies your roll and the monster roll. So both rolls are combined into one roll, and depending on what you get, you do a certain thing. So if I'm armed with this battered axe, if I roll 6 or less, I got hit and I take a point of damage. If I roll a 7, then I get to push I was pushed back, and getting pushed back means that you kind of interfere with a ranged character. If I rolled a 10 or an 11, then I would get both the hero and the monster takes a point of damage. If I rolled a 12, then I get to the next hero to attack gets advantage, and they get a +2 to their roll. If I roll a 13 or 14, then I do a hit to the monster. If I roll a 15 or above, I do a critical hit, which is a hit, plus I get to have advantage on my next roll. So a really cool, I love the combat system in this game. It's really neat. I like how each weapon has its own chart. You roll, you look up the chart, and you do what it says. You don't have to compare rolls or anything like that. The skills are also super cool. They lead to a lot of interesting choices, and there are quite a few of them. So these are just the ones from this game here. So those are all the talents. I probably call them skills, but these are talents. And the talents all have different things you can do. Then you also have these defensive talents based on what weapon you are armed with. You can do certain things to make combat a little more interesting. For instance, with this axe here, I could do a wild swing or an overawe as a kind of an augmented attack. Then I also have these 2 skills here called Storm's Breath and Adaptive Physiology. And these allow me to do certain things depending on certain conditions, like if there is water present in my location or if I am in ranged combat. And then you can basically tap these in order to do certain things that are listed on the card. They will give you certain bonuses, allow you to overcome certain challenges, allow you to heal, that kind of thing. The talents also double as your HP, as your health. So as you take damage, you exhaust these. And as if all of your skills or talents are exhausted, then your character is unconscious. So the characters are quite complex in this game. They are very cool, and I love the skill system, and it just makes for a lot of interesting choices in the game. So let's talk about something that I am looking forward to with this new expansion. I am really looking forward to combining everything together, of taking all of my stuff from my first 2 sets, adding it to here, and playing with a big kind of epic, expansive group of things. So I have a lot of variety. I will always have different things to discover, different events, different kinds of monsters to fight. There's a lot of variety once you combine everything together, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. What I would like more of is more standalone scenarios. In the base game, there were the two main sets. There were standalone scenarios and small campaign scenarios. And I think there was like 6 of each. So I would really like to see, hopefully, some stretch goals for this set. Hopefully they come with some more standalone scenarios. Or I would like to see more guidelines, maybe more formulas, more algorithms of how to create random scenarios, like a suggestion of locations, of monsters, of how much time, just some more guidance on creating my own random scenarios, or maybe kind of an endless mode, kind of like a Hand of Fate Ordeals has, where you have some rules on how to just do kind of a roguelike mode to where you can see how deep into the various locations you can get. So I would like to see, I just want to see more ways to play outside of a campaign, hopefully. And then one thing I hope that doesn't happen, and I've already seen talk about this, so I've already seen talk of a bigger box. One thing that I like about Legends Untold is that both of the old sets fit in this small box. So I have everything in this one small box. It is a big game in a small box. One thing that I am hoping that doesn't happen is I'm hoping Legends of Untold doesn't turn into another Forgotten Depths situation where a giant plastic insert is created for people to store their sleeved cards, making the box way too big for what it needs to be. So please keep the box a good size. This is already kind of turning the game into a medium-sized box, but that would be okay. Just don't make it a giant box. And finally, let's take a quick look. I don't have anything mixed in from this expansion that's also going to be hitting the Kickstarter. But this is the Potions and Preparations. Is an optional expansion for the Legends Untold game system. This set unlocks new option for heroes to gather resources during their adventures and use them to make alchemical potions and magical preparations. So this adds a pretty complex crafting system to the game. And in this boxed expansion, you're going to get a couple new characters, such as the Stone Scout and the Apothecary. You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 locations for each of the environments, the Weeping Caves and the Great Sewers. Those are the large cards you are going to get. You are also going to get a number of new items. So you're going to get some different kinds of armor, some new things you can wear, some different kinds of kits that you can use in order to make exploration a little different, and in order to help you find certain things, certain ingredients that you might need in order to craft potions. And then you will also get a couple new weapons, a blunt Sagaris, like some kind of hammer, and some kind of large crossbow, a Gastrophides. I've never heard of that term. So that's kind of cool. Then there are a number of different potion recipes. So you have to find different ingredients to use to mix these certain potions. You have all of these potions that you can craft, and then also these preparation items. And these will help you during your exploration. They will help you with your survival. So that's kind of cool. Lots of neat stuff here. And then here we have different herbs that you can find. And these herbs can be used for ingredients in potions. And they can also be used, as same as these gems, they can also be used to discard to give you an immediate bonus. So once again, this game really gives the players a lot of choice in the things they want to do on their turn. So for those of you who often think that these kinds of games have limited choice, Legends Untold might be the game for you, the adventure game for you. You get a few more talents that all have optional things that you can do with the talents, and you get a number of different defensive talents for each of the weapons. 3 new defensive talents for each of the new weapons included in this expansion. Finally, in the Potions expansion, you will get all of these cards that will allow you to interact with the various environmental icons on the location maps. You have these different kinds of fungus that you can find. You can do some mining. And then also if your location token has animals or insects or beasts, then you can find different pieces of those animals and insects. So you can find scales or wings, a heart, a liver, an abdomen, some claws, egg fragments. And again, these are all ingredients that you can save in order to craft more powerful potions or items, or you can use these to give an immediate benefit to something. So here's all the different minerals that you can mine, all kinds of different stuff to use and make. And then here are the different herbs and funguses and plant life and that kind of thing. So yeah, this expansion is really cool. It adds a lot of stuff, especially if you are into games that have crafting. I know some people really, really like crafting in games. I can go either or. I think I would like to try it. Sometimes crafting is a little too much bookkeeping for me, but overall, I think this is pretty cool. It's a neat expansion that adds a whole new kind of layer of complexity and layer of choice to the game. So yeah, all right, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at Legends Untold, the Illumination of Deepsorrow. This is, again, a standalone campaign expansion that can be expanded by your original sets and can also be used as an expansion for your original sets. And then also the Potions and Preparations expansion set. I'm really looking forward to getting these. I think this is going to add a ton of fun to an already pretty great game. So all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.